Welcome back to the neighborhood, and thanks for spending part of your day with us today. This episode is something we call the Neighborhood Watch. Welcome to the podcast where three longtime friends talk about video games from the average gamer's perspective. My name is Andrew Kimball.
I'm Dylan Wren.
And I'm Aubrey Summer.
And we are your friendly neighborhood gamers.
If this is your first time listening, the Neighborhood Watch is an episode format we do once a month where we can talk about all the games that we're playing that probably won't get their own dedicated deep dive, but we still want to give them some time in the spotlight. As you heard in the new intro, if you actually still listen to that and you don't just hit the 30 seconds forward button like I do when I listen to podcasts, you will have heard that we have a new official member of the Friendly Neighborhood Gamers brand, podcast, YouTube channel, all that good stuff. Aubrey is officially joining as a consistent voice in the neighborhood. So Aubrey, welcome to the show as your first official appearance. How does it feel?
Officially a host. I mean, this was a slightly more exclusive club than Level Playing Field. I had to,
Yeah, we let anybody into that show.
I had to pretty consistently, show up when asked and, contribute content. So it carries a little bit of weight, but yeah. It's nice. It's good. It helps me get off TikTok and actually doing things I really enjoy, which is, playing more games and engaging in more hobbies. So I'm looking forward to it. And it's a nice creative outlet. So feels good.
Dylan, how's it feel for you?
Fine. It's like, I can't believe you did this. I'm leaving the podcast.
Say, how does it feel to welcome in your replacement?
Right. It's one of those things where it's just like, we've had Aubrey on a bunch already. So it was kind of just like, yeah, makes sense to make it a little bit more of a official, consistent voice. And I think she brings a good perspective that is different than our perspectives, which tend to be a little bit more similar to each other. So I think it's always interesting and helpful and makes for a better podcast, the wider range of perspective you can get.
Yeah, that's what I'm excited about, is having that third perspective, that different opinions. Like Aubrey plays vastly different. Obviously there's overlap between the three of us, but she brings definitely different games to the conversation, but also having a third member will allow us to do things like trivia more often and allow us to experiment with different kinds of episode structures and topics and just kind of re-grease the wheels creatively a little bit here as well. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. Aubrey makes it sound like we had this long strenuous vetting process for her, but I didn't want to just bring her in right away. I wanted to have her be on a bit more often and see if it was something she wanted to commit to full time and all that. So
yes,
it's kind of gone both ways.
I was the one who asked for kind of a trial period to make sure that the schedule was something I could accommodate in my life, because I have a little bit more going on now than I did during the Level Playing Field days. Mostly because we're not in, the thick of COVID right now.
Yep.
But yeah, I think it'll be good for me. I think it'll be good to have something else going on, something else to do, something to, again, put me in a creative headspace more often. So I'm excited.
It also allows for some flexibility if when Dylan was sick, we had to kind of figure out what was going on. And so this isn't necessarily, you're not, committing to being on every single episode of the weekly podcast, but you will be a regular, normal fixture of the show at this point. So we're excited moving forward.
Yeah.
And make things more dynamic. You've got a soprano in this, baritone mix.
Yeah, we're really trying to appeal to a demographic that we couldn't break into without you. So thank you so much. We couldn't do this without you.
Yeah. We are not playing search and find games.
Yeah, exactly.
We need somebody who already plays those to help us break into that market.
Oh man, look out. Actually, honestly, middle-aged women with money heavily invested in something is when money gets infused into a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of fandom is carried by like middle-aged women who from Star Trek, like they were the first ones writing fan fiction, going to conventions, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
it's always good.
Exactly.
Female fans buy stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say the more people
we don't have anything to sell, but
the more people that get into a thing and spend money in a thing, and whatever, I think the better for a hobby. So yeah, that's kind of the point behind your friendly neighborhood gamers too. Is like it's not just 30-something white dudes that play video games. There are plenty of other people. So
correct. So this episode, being a neighborhood watch, we're going to talk about the games we've been playing. Typically, we'll open these episodes up with like an opening question, and then maybe at the end we'll do some sort of segment if we have one. But our last neighborhood watch, Dylan and I talked about Xbox and Destiny. And we have played a lot more games than just Destiny. So we're not going to do any sort of opening segment. We're just going to get right into like the games we've been playing, the things that we've been enjoying. And then that's going to be it. We're going to just talk about games. It's going to be a good old-fashioned what we've been playing episode. So with that being said, Dylan, kick us off. What is the first game that you want to talk about that you have played over the last couple of months that you haven't had a chance to talk about yet?
So I think the one that I'll start with is probably the one that I've been playing, I would say perhaps the most over the past couple of months, is Dead by Daylight. Not necessarily a new game. It's been out for a while, but it is the
definitely not a new game. Yeah.
It is the asymmetrical, like 1v4. One person is playing like the killer, and 4 people are playing survivors trying to repair generators and escape from the map. So I've been enjoying that. I got back into it because they had like every few months they release like a new killer and survivors sort of thing. And so recently they released Vecna from Dungeons and Dragons. They put
You mean Stranger Things?
Sure. Well, they do not know, because they do also have a Stranger Things thing in there.
He does. I've seen people play as Steve.
Yeah. So they put Vecna in, and so I was like, oh, well, that seems really cool. I want to try that out. Alan Wake is in there. I think Lara Croft is the most recent thing that has been added. She's a survivor.
Is she modeled after like the most recent games, or is she
the Crystal Dynamics?
Okay.
Yeah, I think she's it's not a 1-to-1, but it is more of the recent stuff. And then in a few weeks there will, or maybe even less time than that, there will be from Castlevania, there will be Dracula, and Simon Belmont will be added to the game.
Okay.
They're like the Fortnite of horror.
Basically. They pretty much have gotten a ton of the biggest like horror franchises in there.
And also Lara Croft
and Nicolas Cage.
Nick Cage.
But yeah, so I've been playing a lot of that just because it's been like a chill little game that I've been enjoying. They added a 2 versus 8 mode recently.
So like 2 killers.
2 killers, 8 survivors. It's a limited time thing, so by the time you're hearing this episode, it'll probably be over. I think it was supposed to run for 2 weeks, and then people, like, they got such good feedback and stuff that they extended it by an additional week. And
so it may be a permanent mode at some point.
Well, they've said, I don't think it'll be permanent because it does fracture like the playlists
Oh, gotcha.
because it's not the same. Like, so I think they still do want people like they want to cut down on the wait times, and so they don't want, you know, some people queuing up for 2v8, some people queuing up for 1v4, and
but it could
the
be
wait
like a more
times just being
consistent
longer.
event kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the impression I got was that they plan on bringing it back every now and then, just to, you know, probably 3 or 4 times a year, just to like have fun for like a month and then, you know, take it offline. It's been interesting because it's been like you can only play like 5 of the killers in it, and you can play like any survivor, but they like you don't get to pick like your loadout. Basically, it's just like 4 different classes that you can pick from the game instead of creating like your own sort of custom loadout with your perks.
So
and
simplify
stuff.
it down.
Oh.
And so me and my
I didn't realize it was that involved.
Yeah. So I mean, like there's a lot of interesting like strategy and stuff that goes into it. But my little brother and I tried to play as killers for, you know, like probably the first day that it came out, the 2v8 mode. And I think we waited for like 15-20 minutes a time to like get into the thing. We only did it like 2 or 3 times just because it was such a long wait.
Because people want to be killer, or because people... Okay.
Yeah, well, because there are plenty... Normally, there are way more people that want to play as survivor than killer because of the...
Kind of the way it's balanced.
Sort of the way it's balanced, but also like if you're playing with friends, you probably like most of the time go in as a team on survivors.
Together, yeah.
Versus this,
but having
like,
8 friends is a little bit less.
Having 8 friends is a little bit less.
Possible.
Also, the chance to like play with one other person as a killer, I think, was enticing for a lot of people. And so the queue times were long if you wanted to be a killer. They were pretty much instantaneous if you wanted to be a survivor. And so also it was, you know, just like chaos, you know, like they did raise the requirements.
Sure.
Normally, you have to, as a survivor, you have to repair like 5 generators before the gates turn on and you can like leave the map and escape. This time, or with the 2v8 mode, you had to do 8 generators before they would open. But it was like bigger maps and there were a ton of people running around.
I was about to ask if they increased the map size because
I think
nowhere to hide.
Well, they limited it to like 3 of the bigger maps. I don't know that they added like a bigger map, but some of the maps are larger than others.
Okay.
But like it was a lot of fun. I played Survivor mostly in it, just because learning how to play Survivor is not particularly fun. But when it's just like in the chaos of like 2 versus 8 people, like it's a whole lot easier to get away from the killers because there are usually like 3 or 4 other people in any chase with you. So as long as it's like the meme, like as long as you're running faster than the other guy, like the bear's going to get them first. So
yeah, you're like Shane from The Walking Dead, just shooting them in the knee so that you can get away.
Exactly. And so it was kind of like, I am just going to get out of here. And so it was a lot of fun. It was a little frustrating at times because, like, you know, it's rando people from the internet. And so some matches you'd get into and there'd be like people who would just spend all match hiding in a corner, just trying to like get points, but not like actually contribute. to the game. And so 2v8, it's pretty like you can really kind of steamroll the killers, but as soon as they start taking people out, it's like, oh, this is now way unbalanced towards the survivors. But it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. By the end of it, it got a little tedious, like the 2v8 mode, just because there were only 5 different killers you could be. And so as a survivor, you would basically just go against the same 2 killers over and over again. Like the community kind of found the 2, like the combination that was best.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, oh, okay, it's Huntress and Wraith again. How interesting. And the big part too was they were giving you like a 400% bonus to like points earned, which you could then spend on like leveling up your other characters. So I was mostly just playing Survivor so that I could level up all of my killers to level 1 so that I could have all access to like all the perks once this mode goes away. So
who is your favorite killer in the game?
That's a tough one. Right now,
it's not Nick Cage.
Well, Nick Cage is a survivor, not a killer.
What a missed opportunity.
Well, Longlegs was not out at the time that Nick Cage came.
But it's just Nicolas Cage. Like, come on, just be hunted by Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. Like, he's just a regular He's
Nick like, Cage. I gotta steal the Declaration of Independence. And he's got a knife and he's chasing you.
Yes.
Something face off.
Yeah, but I've been enjoying the Nemesis from Resident Evil 2 or 3.
3, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been having fun with him. I've been having fun with Alien, like from Alien.
Like the Xenomorph.
The Xenomorph. And Vecna. I played a lot of Vecna recently. Just
from
because,
Stranger Things.
Sure.
Now, I know they announced a couple things with Vecna all at once. Does Matt Mercer voice him?
Probably.
In Dead by Daylight or in something
Probably.
else?
I can't say that I paid a ton of attention to Vecna's voice in Dead by Daylight. And it's not like there's a ton of like voice lines in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, that is probably Matt Mercer.
Does he sound nothing like Minsk?
Well, yeah.
Does it sound like Ganondorf?
Yeah, a little bit like Ganondorf, not a whole lot like Minsk, because Minsk has a very distinct accent. So
nice.
But yeah, it's been fun. It's free on Game Pass if you have it, but it's one that scratches kind of a competitive itch if you ever have it, but like since you can just kind of be the solo killer, you don't have to worry about like being on a team, or like if you're not that great at the game, like you may have some matches that aren't super fun as the killer, but it's not like you have that feeling of like, man, not only am I not having fun, but also my team is suffering because I am bad at this game, you know?
Right.
And it's one that I think like they do have like a custom mode and stuff. And so could definitely hop in with friends if you've got enough people that want to learn how to play the game or take turns like learning how to play the game in like a custom lobby. So, but yeah, I enjoy the sort of challenge of it and managing everything on the killer side of things. And so it's definitely one that like it's stuck around for a while because it is good. And so
right.
I think it's worth checking out if you are even remotely interested in it, at least on the killer side of things. I don't know that I'd recommend, like, if you just want to play Survivor and you don't have any friends that are interested in the game, I don't know that I'd recommend playing the game. But on the killer side, I think it's pretty fun.
Yeah, just the multiplayer of it all is what generally turns me off to it, because I am intrigued. And if we got like a local group together to try and do it, I'd definitely be down. But it is sort of that, like, it is never my first instinct to jump in with both feet on like a multiplayer only experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think too, like if we got a group together where pretty much nobody had played, like obviously I've played, but I would try to stick to Survivor so that it's like, but yeah, like somebody who basically has never played killer before is probably a lot easier to learn against than somebody who has put a ton of time in and, you know, this is the game that they play. So,
yeah.
Makes sense. Aubrey, what have you been jumping both feet into recently?
Recently, probably the deepest I've gotten has been into Hades. Rolled credits on it and have just been really enjoying the gameplay loop. I've been doing challenges with the Twin Fists of Melphon, trying to get most of the story.
Post credits still is what you're saying?
A little bit. I've done,
Gotcha.
I think, 2 runs post credit.
When do credits roll? Is it after you beat Hades the first time, or is it after you beat Hades?
It's like the eighth time, right?
Yeah. So I want to say, it's between 8 to 10 times.
Also, spoiler warning for YouTube
Yes.
comments that you fight Hades at the end of the game called Hades. Shocker.
Well, and also spoilers for like post that. So you make it to the surface and you talk to your mom, Persephone, because she's up there in a little garden not far from the entrance to Tartarus, to Hades. Yeah. And you have the brief like, oh, you're alive, because she thought you were dead. She was under the impression that you were stillborn, and then for the longest time, Zagreus thought that Nyx was his mother. So Nyx actually did some, funky nighttime magic and brought Zagreus back to life. But you are a creature of the underworld, so you can't stay alive on the surface for too long.
Weird how there's a narrative reason that you have to keep replaying the roguelite game.
Yeah.
Right? So you get up there, you can talk with her for about a minute before you die. And then, I was doing good with all the names, but I can't remember. Maybe Hypnos? The little dude who records you every time you die. And I think he's supposed to be the god of sleep.
Yeah, I think that's Hypnos.
He's like, oh, you died of natural causes. What does that mean? And Zagreus is like, I don't know, man. I died while making a run. I didn't get out. Because you have to keep lying to the Olympians that you haven't made it out so that they'll continue to like grant you the boons. And then you make the run enough times and talk to Persephone and then to Hades and then back to Persephone and then back to Hades and like basically try and encourage some counseling, because in the original myth, I think Poseidon kidnapped Persephone and brought her to the underworld as a wife for Hades. And I think in Hades, if I remember correctly, she didn't go like super willingly to the underworld. So Hades was never really convinced that she loved him. And so after Zagreus died and she's like, I can't be here, like I have to leave, he's like, okay, yeah, go. And then basically just tried to protect her from Olympus.
Yeah.
Which is why he never like talked about it or talked about anything. And why Zagreus was cautioned to not tell the Olympians that he was trying to get out to get to her. But yeah, enough back and forth. And eventually she's like, okay, yeah, I'm ready to go back. Like, let's have a legit conversation with your dad. And so then Charon comes and picks you up in the boat, and you listen to one of Orpheus's songs as you float down the river, and you gain access to Persephone's garden, which I think is just something you can like earn treasure to upgrade and make look nice, like you can with all the halls and everything. And then in the meantime, there's still some side stuff that you can clear in runs. Like I didn't run into Sisyphus for the longest time after I started routinely clearing it. Like I just didn't bump into him.
Yeah.
Because in the first zone, you can bump into Sisyphus. In the second, you can bump into Eurydice. And then in the third, you can bump into Patroclus. So Sisyphus has the least going on out of all those. Eurydice is still mad at Orpheus. And Orpheus pops up in the court. And you can use him to like set the music in the hall. And so I think with enough runs, you can eventually encourage them to like reconcile.
Right, yeah.
Which is why I'm still continuing to do it. And then Achilles and Patroclus have a history. And they're very much like modern interpretations of their story, reads them as lovers. So Patroclus is just in Elysium kind of
pouting.
Like, yeah, he's like, okay, well, guess Achilles ditched me or whatever. But then Achilles is like, I got a job from Hades. Like, I can't go up there. Like, I miss him. And so you can play intermediary with them as well. So there's still some side stuff that I'd like to fully explore and flesh out and see what I can get. But I am very much looking forward to Hades too.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to ask was, why are you still playing it post credits? And I think you kind of answered that eventually. It's like you're interested in the side characters.
Yes. Yeah.
So I mean, it's story motivations more so than gameplay motivations.
1000%. Yeah. No, once I realized I can clear with Melphon the Twin Fists, I'm like, great, I'm doing that every time.
You found your build. You're not deviating.
Yeah. I sure did. I found my build. I found the boons I gravitate towards now. I'm like, yes, Give me Athena. Every time Athena. Athena and Zeus. That's all I want. Like,
Yeah.
I want lightning to come out of my fists, and I want to be able to deflect when I punch.
Interesting.
Because you punch a bunch with the fists.
Punch a bunch.
Punch a bunch. So almost nothing touches you. But yeah, I've always been kind of a Greek mythology kid. I had an abridged version of a bunch of the stories. And then we had like Hades Challenge and
Wishbone.
That Wishbone Odyssey game. And so
could never beat it.
You could never beat it. You had to beat Circe at checkers. And just, I know there's that musical, the epic musical. Dude, I thought Dylan might have heard of this. There's a guy in, I'm going to get this so wrong. I want to say somewhere in South America. And he's writing a musical kind of like Hamilton, but it's about the Odyssey.
Huh.
Interesting.
It's really good. I've listened to it, what he's got out so far. He's basically releasing it chunk by chunk. And it's been, I want to say I first heard a song from it during lockdown. So it's been like 4 years of solid work that he's been putting into it. And so it got me itching. I was like, I've got to have a copy of the Odyssey, right? I've got entirely too many books. Surely I've picked up a copy of the Odyssey, and I do have it, but I haven't sat down to read it yet. It's really cool. It's called Epic the Musical. He just released a big, like, updated, remixed, like, reproduced, I want to say one whole album. It used to be broken into, like, sections of, like, 4 or 5 songs, but
this is
not
Brightman
video
in
games,
it, or
but it's interesting.
Is Alex Brightman in it?
Not yet. It hasn't quite reached the mainstream like that just yet, but I'm sure before too long. And I'm sure once you listen to it, you will recognize sounds that you've heard on TikTok.
Yeah, like I'm sure I've tangentially probably heard bits and pieces of this, but yeah, I have not. I thought you were about to talk about the whatever the Stray Gods game is, because isn't that like a musical? And
that is a musical, and
and maybe Greek, but yeah, I don't know.
It is. Laura Bailey plays a siren. That's on my like wish list. I don't think I've picked it up on any platform yet. That's going to be a Switch game I play.
Yeah.
Yeah, it very much has Switch vibes.
Yeah, same with Hades 2, which I know really nothing about. I assume it's Zagreus' daughter, but I also have zero idea how you get there, because that was not the...
I think
I have no idea
sister.
who that character is, so I'm just going in blind. Like, my Greek myth knowledge is super fragmented from the exact sources that Aubrey referenced.
Yeah.
Which, like, are childhood sources of, like, old and PC games and, like, little bits and pieces from school and, like...
That Wishbone game was definitely not, like, 100% accurate either.
Yeah, no. So I didn't really fully understand everything playing Hades as far as like relationships and whatnot. And so going into the sequel, I'm like, I like the colors, I like the main character, I like how they're tweaking gameplay. I'm excited to get into this thing. But I don't have the super sound background knowledge to
Yeah.
Another great resource I just remembered was a podcast called Myths and Legends.
I feel like I've heard of that.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
And he does a really good job of not strongly rewriting them, but setting them up in a nice, comfortable narrative thing. I listened to him a lot for a while when I was doing like a lot of driving to visit Delaney and Pensacola, or when I was working up in Wiggins. And so he'll do like story by story, which I have like a collection of Greek and Roman myths. And it's like, yes, the story of Ares' affair with Aphrodite, and it's like a paragraph this big, because there's not actually a whole lot to it.
Yeah.
To a lot of these.
For audio listeners, she's holding her fingers about 2 inches apart.
Yeah.
They're all audio listeners.
Yeah, it's a paragraph or two. Like, they're usually fairly brief, but yeah, the Myths and Legends guy does a really good job of. I listened to his take on Jason and the Argonauts, on Hercules' whole story, or Heracles, if we're doing the actual Greek pronunciation, not the Roman pronunciation.
Hercules. That's how I say it.
That's the wrong pronunciation. So yeah, anyway, a few resources for just legends in general, actually. He covers legends across multiple cultures, which is really cool.
Nice.
So yeah, 80s.
Yeah.
What about you, Andrew? What do you want to talk about?
Well, you talked about patching up relationships with the gods. I'll talk about killing them.
Okay.
So I recently played through all of Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn.
That's what that's about?
Yeah.
It is a recent release, came to Xbox Game Pass, and yeah, the basic premise is there is a realm called the Great Below, and it like seeped into the human world, and there is this kind of barrier that was keeping the gods contained, and then your character, Nor, goes up and shoots it with her pistol, and it breaks, which apparently, like, nothing had broken it before then, but, like, that's all it took.
Just modern technology.
Yeah. So there's a lot of problems with this game as far as, like, narrative and, mostly just narrative and they had all these kind of ambitions for like systems and world building and stuff that ultimately just kind of, it felt like they didn't have the budget or time to bring them all to fruition like they wanted to. But yeah, the core idea is like once she does that, the gods escape, and then you're knocked unconscious, you wake up however many days later, and there's like this little fox thing, and it turns out he's like the god of death, and he opts to help you kill the other gods that are like wreaking havoc on Earth or whatever planet, whatever world this is. Because like it starts out where you're like kind of running through the trenches of like this World War I era battlefield fighting the undead. And then next thing you know, you're kind of in like an Arabic looking city, but there's knights with like shields and broadswords that you're fighting. And so it's like they kind of just smashed a bunch of stuff together in this game. And it's called Flintlock because you have your main weapon, which is like an axe, usually like a hatchet, or I unlocked like this pretty cool sword. And then in your other hand, you have a flintlock, like a pistol. And so what that's for is similar to Bloodborne. When an enemy is like coming towards you to attack, you can shoot them and interrupt their attack and give you like an opportunity to attack back. Also, the god of death, who I can't remember his name, he kind of infuses your flintlock powder, your black powder, with some like god magic, where you essentially, it gives you like a double jump and an air dash and lets you like zip around the world, which they use for not quite fast travel, but like shortcuts. So you get to a place and then you unlock like these air tunnel things. And then you can use those like air tunnel things to like skip all of the like level you had to traverse to get to that point. So like if you want to just like quickly travel through the world, you can like zip through these air tunnel things. Basically, like I'm planning on doing a review for our YouTube channel. I have the script like mostly outlined. I just need to go ahead and record it and get that put together. But I liked the gameplay loop enough to beat the game. But
that's good.
I didn't really give a crap about the story, the characters, like anything on that side of the game, which, like I said, they had some interesting ideas, but ultimately it was just like, it really felt like a bunch of setup and then a rushed ending and kind of nothing in between. It was like the whole, you explore like one open area and then you kill that god, and then you move to another open area and you kill that god, and then you move to a smaller linear kind of area and kill that god, and then immediately after fighting that boss, you fight the final boss. So there's like 4 main bosses, but the last 2 are like back to back.
Yeah.
And so that kind of like is just the whole package of the game, is like as far as leveling up your equipment, and like you can find gear and equip new gear, and the gears have like set bonuses and stuff, but like ultimately none of that really felt like it mattered that much. You unlock new weapons, and I really just used like my pistol that I started the game with, and then I think I got like one other pistol that I upgraded to at some point, and then I had a long rifle that I could snipe and get like headshots with that was cool. But they give you like a grenade launcher and like a shotgun type weapon and stuff. Never really used those. Tried them like once and was like, meh, not as good or doesn't really fit my play style. And so it felt like a game that should have been better, but unfortunately for like whatever reason, just kind of missed the mark.
Yeah. Well, and I think it had gotten maybe delayed at some point, because I feel like I picked it up as a...
Yeah, I think last year.
Last year,
like
I think I picked it up as a Fantasy Critic thing, and then it got delayed or something. It just didn't end up coming out. And didn't
or maybe it didn't have a date, and then they like we didn't hear about it for a long time. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what happened, but yeah, it seemed like it could have. The way they were talking about it felt like it could have come out last year, but it ultimately didn't.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like too, it's it's one of those sort of 7 out of 10 games where it's like you can have fun with it. It's a decent time, but maybe it's not. If you're not enjoying it immediately, or if you're not getting it on Game Pass, it may not be worth picking up on full price or something like that.
It's the kind of game you may have made your whole personality when you were 11 and you got it on the GameCube, but we live in a world now with a dearth of quality games.
Like I said, I'll probably give it like an official score on my video, but like I would probably put it in that. Yes, between 6 and 7 out of 10 probably. And for me, like the gameplay was fun enough. I liked the combat mechanics. I liked the traversal enough to like keep playing it. But I will say, like you said, if you try it and you're not really enjoying it, or like I put the game down probably twice and thought, yeah, I'm done. I'm not like it's not working for me. I'm not going to play this anymore. And then for whatever reason, I was like, let me give it another shot. And eventually, probably like a couple hours in, it was like I either had the combat had clicked a little bit more, and maybe I had upgraded my weapons to the point, or gotten a weapon that I liked to the point where I was like, oh, now I'm kind of in the flow. But it was a really slow start for me. Like I kind of had to power through to get to that point. So like powering through to then experience like a 6 or 7 out of 10 game, it was like, yeah. If this had not been a Game Pass game, I wouldn't have played it because I'm not going to buy it yet. But like, if I had paid for it, that probably would have altered my opinion a little bit more like harshly on the experience.
Yeah. Well, and as far as gameplay goes, like obviously there were a lot of sort of Bloodborne-esque qualities to it just looking at trailers. But what does this game... Like, if you had to compare it or use a couple of other games to be like, this is, a mix of these two games is this combat system, what would you say it plays like?
It's like it's probably Bloodborne first, like maybe Sekiro second. And that's only because there's a parry, but it's not like a required parry. There's no like posture system or anything. Well, okay. No, there's not so it's Bloodborne, God of War, like the new God of Wars, and then like Arkham, because God of War, you have Atreus that fights with you, and you can use like a button to have him shoot arrows that will inflict status effects on enemies.
Yeah.
And that's what the little fox god does for you. You can like inflict these kind of statuses on enemies. And then it's only like Arkham in the sense that you're building up a combat like multiplier. And that multiplier adds to your currency that you're earning. So the more currency you have on you, and the higher that multiplier is, the more like bonus currency you're getting. But as soon as you get hit, you lose that multiplier. So it's kind of like a risk reward thing of, I'll try to go in here, fight these things and not get hit. And then if I do that successfully, I can bank like this bonus currency to go upgrade my weapons or level up or whatever. And it's not leveled up in the sense that you level up with like, I'm going to put 2 points into strength, 2 points into health, whatever. It's more like I'm going to unlock either this ability in the Flintlock tree, the like melee tree, or the like god magic tree. And then as you like kind of level those up, it kind of affects your play style and which route you want to go.
Gotcha.
It feels more like an action adventure kind of God of War style game, but with Souls elements, kind of like the Jedi games where
you could kind of ignore it if you wanted to, and we're playing on an easier difficulty, but if you are good at those games or want to lean into that, you can.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's exactly. You rest at resting points to get your healing items back, and it resets the enemies, and like it has that aspect, and you lose your currency on death and have to go pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like the exploration of the world and traversal and combat, there's no stamina meter. Like it felt a lot more like the modern God of Wars with a bit of Bloodborne combat, as opposed to like a Souls game with some exploration.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on my list of things that like I might check out eventually because it's on Game Pass, but we'll see.
Yeah. It's one of those games that like if you're having like for me, I had a decent enough time that I wanted to like finish it. And it like I don't regret playing it. I didn't get to the end and go like, well, that was a waste of time. But it's also like if I never played it, I would also probably be like, I don't feel like I missed out on anything like magical or transformative.
It does not sound like you think that it's going to show up in a lot of like the Game Awards or Game of the Year lists or something like that. So
no, it might make my Game of the Year list only if I don't play like 10 games from this year.
Yeah, fair.
So
valid.
We'll see. But let's shake things up a little bit. And Aubrey, what is a game from Dylan's list of games that you want to hear about?
What is the Chant?
So the Chant is a little game that I picked up not too long ago. I hesitate to call it a walking sim because it's not. Like there is combat to it, but it is essentially you show up on this island for like some sort of wellness retreat sort of thing, which is obviously a cult. And
naturally.
Yeah. And so they're, doing some sort of like chanting thing on your first night there, and whoops, we're accidentally summoning some sort of eldritch being.
What? Dylan was playing an eldritch horror video game? Who would have seen that coming?
Shocking. And so,
a game nobody else has probably really ever heard of. I'm sure that people have heard of this game, but yeah.
Well, it's one that I don't think it has a ton of buzz around it, but it came out like a year ago or something like that. But it's not a full price game or anything. It's just a fun little sort of eldritch horror thing where there's some puzzle solving stuff that you're trying to do. Like you go into an environment and it's like, okay, there is I forget what they call it, like the veil or the mist or some sort of thing that's leaking into this world, and so you have to collect like these certain protective like gems to get through some of the different places. And so that's how kind of the story plays out, is like each person that was at this retreat has one of the gems. And so you have to kind of like go get their help or find them or, keep them from going crazy or, whatever it may be, to try to like get through these different parts of the island that in order to, try to stop all of this from happening and survive the night.
So is it like a spooky aesthetic or like a cute aesthetic?
Definitely spooky.
Okay.
It is not. I would not say it's a cute aesthetic at all.
It's one of those that could go either way.
Yeah.
Is it like spooky or like straight up scary, like horror?
For me, I would say spooky. That is my personal take on it. I know I have a bit of a higher tolerance for the spookiness than maybe you do, so I don't know where you. But I would
like
say
I think of Bloodborne as like spooky as like the environment, the gothic, the monsters, whatever. But like I think of horror as like something like Dead Space or whatever, where you're shooting off limbs and like the monsters are jumping out at you to impale you and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
are they? Is
blood
it
everywhere?
Aesthetic, or are they going for deliberate scares?
I would say to me, it still feels way more spooky than like.
It's more about the like tension and suspense.
Yeah, more about
like
the tension. Like there are monsters that do try to attack you, like otherworldly creatures that are like leaking into this world,
as they do.
But
Leaking.
They're
What
known
a
for.
word to use.
Yeah. But it's not like to me, like, I don't remember. Obviously, I haven't beaten the game yet, but I'm not remembering jump scares.
Right. Okay.
I think it's more so just like there are certain areas where some of these creatures will be. And I think the scariest part is because all of those creatures, like, you have these various, like, you can burn sage or whatever, and that does damage to, like, all of the creatures have a type. It's like red type, blue type, yellow type, or something like that. I forget what the, like, actual names for those things are. But, like, you can burn sage, or you can have, like, a torch or something, and all of those do damage to, like, a specific type. So it's kind of like this rock, paper, scissors thing that you're doing, where it's like, oh, this is a red health enemy, so I need to use the red health item to, like, do bonus damage to it or whatever.
Like Wii Fit Adventure.
Yeah, so it's not like a super
Nintendo
complicated combat system, and it's not, like, super, challenging where this, like, giant mutated frog is attacking you. Like, you can kind of just, like, dodge out of the way and hit it with, like, a yellow thing and, like, beat it. So it's not, like, super, super complicated. It's more about just, like, figuring out what the heck's going on, solving some, puzzles, and it's kind of got, like, a spooky aesthetic. I would say the scariest part of the game, which is not really a spoiler because she's literally telling you about it immediately in the game, is, like, the girl who goes there is going on this retreat because her sister died, and she feels very guilty about it. And so she
was
keeps,
like, what if I died too?
Well, she keeps seeing, like, hallucinations of, like, her sister that tries to attack her. And that's, like, the only enemy that you can't. It's kind of like Nemesis in Resident Evil, where it kind of comes at you. You can't really do anything about it. You just have to, like, get to a safe zone to get away from it. And so that would be really the only sort of, for me, kind of scary time. And it's not even really scary. It's more so just like, oh, I can't actually fight this. I have to run, which always puts it in a different light. So it's one that I want to finish just to, like, it plays pretty well. It, seems interesting. The story seems interesting. I don't think it's a very long game. It's one that I'm enjoying so far, and we'll probably beat and finish and maybe do a little review on it or something on our YouTube channel. We'll see. If you're interested in, like, cosmic horror, it is a game that does that.
Cool. I don't plan on ever playing that, but Dylan, what's a game on Aubrey's list that you're curious to know more about?
I would like to know more about Paper Mario Sticker Star, because I do like the Paper Mario series, but I had not heard of that game. Only Thousand Year Door and whatever the new one is.
Isn't the new one a remake of Thousand Year Door?
No, but there's the other new one that's on Switch. It came out like a year or two ago.
Oh, right. Yeah. What was that one called? It wasn't like, people were like, this is fine, but it's no Thousand Year Door. Origami King. That's what it was. Yeah. Okay.
So what is Sticker Star like? Have you played the other two, I guess, as well?
I have not played the other two.
Was there one on the original DS? I feel like I've played a Paper Mario game, but it's none of the ones that you guys have mentioned. So carry on. I'm going to see if I can figure it out.
I don't know.
I thought there was only one Paper Mario game until the Origami King came out, and I'm shocked to learn that there's at least one more, possibly two. So,
not paying attention to the handheld space. I mean, I've always been, it makes total sense that I would be into mobile games now, because I've always been like a handheld gamer. First game system was a Game Boy. I played the DS far longer, and with my love of Animal Crossing, when I was in college, I did a paid internship. Oh my gosh. And with the money that I got from it, I went on eBay. I made an eBay profile that was literally just here for 3DS. Like, that's all I wanted. I was like, I'm not trying to get into, like, hunting for deals or anything on eBay. And I found a remarkable deal. I got a coral pink, which is my color.
For audio
3DS.
listeners, she's holding up her coral pink.
Holding up my coral pink 3DS. My coral pink DS Lite is nowhere nearby.
For every listener, she's holding up.
And so I got so I got my 3DS, and it came with Animal Crossing New Leaf, which was the goal, Paper Mario Sticker Star, and I want to say Pokemon X, which I realize now looking back, those are some of the best games on the 3DS.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually really lucked out with this deal I found. There's still some pictures of the previous owner's dog on this 3DS that they took with the camera. So yeah, so I immediately started Animal Crossing, of course, because that's what I got it for. And then I was like, well, Paper Mario games are good. Let me go ahead and start it. So it was my first experience with the Paper Mario games. So I have no idea truly how much gameplay differs from the originals, but the shtick, I guess, is you peel stuff off the wall. Like there's just like stickers. So in the opening of the game, there's like a sticker comet or whatever that's coming to the Mushroom Kingdom, the little 2D kingdom, and Bowser shows up to try and like grab the comet.
What?
And Mario tries to stop him, and everything gets all like crumpled up and busted up. And so something I've noticed restarting this is everybody gets like weirdly mad at Mario at the beginning of his adventures. Like,
Mario, you idiot.
Right? Like, it's like, hey, come help me, come help me, come help me. And you peel this like sticker of a crown off of a picture of Peach. And he's like, why'd you touch the comet? Everybody knows you're not supposed to touch the comet. Why would you say that? And you're like, well, actually, Bowser touched the comet. It's like, oh, you coward, trying to shove your mistakes off on somebody else. Mario wouldn't act like this. Why are you claiming you're Mario? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, but I am Mario and I didn't do it. Like, and he's like, okay, well, we got to go stop Bowser. Come on. And it's like,
yeah,
this poor plumber can't catch a break. So as far as I know, it plays just like other Paper Marios with the like,
it's like
your attacks and everything. Yeah, turn-based combat.
But it's also like
platforming and stuff. But
well, I was going to say, at least for Thousand Year Door, it was like turn-based, but there was stuff that you could do for each attack where it's like, okay, you're hitting or you're jumping on
there's
a
like
Goomba,
a rhythm
but
element.
if you can just let it do that, or you can press like A or whatever it is in time
to increase
with it
the
to
damage.
increase the damage, which I loved that mix of like turn-based, but also here's something that's interesting.
Yeah, that's still very much the case in this game. I think it's just the shtick was like holographic, and also it's on the 3DS. So if you can tolerate the 3DS screen, there's that added dimension in terms of like the sticker the like Paper Mario running around and like those elements, which I can tolerate the 3D for short bursts, but it just kind of gives me eye strain. Really, it's all the 3D effect does on the 3DS. But it's fun. I've beaten it before, and it was a good time. And I just pulled it up. My last save file was from 2016. Was the last time I played. So we're throwing it.
You still have it
way back.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm me. I'm a pack rat. I hold on to everything.
I went through an era of like selling all my stuff to make ends meet. So
that's so valid. Nope. I just kind of sat there and starved for a minute when I. It's like never my instinct to sell.
I think I found the game that I was thinking of. I think I've never played a Paper Mario game. I think what I was thinking of was a game that came out on November 28th, 2005, because I remember playing this on my DS like right after Katrina.
Mm-hmm.
Mario and Luigi Partners in Time.
So you have played a Mario and Luigi brothership type of game.
Yeah, and its taglines or its tags are like adventure, puzzle, JRPG, and action RPG. So it has some of that like Paper Mario. I was watching a quick little video
like the
of it.
Turn-based.
Yeah, like the combat is very like turn-based, similar to and I think that was where my confusion was.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it had some of the same kind of like zany humor that, those
kind of high concept
RPG games lean into a little bit more than the mainline games.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, Thousand Year Door was maybe one of the first Mario games I ever really experienced. And so that was kind of what I expected from, like, Mario stories. And then
Bowser wants to marry Peach.
Yeah. And then I played like Mario's Sunshine or whatever, and I was just kind of like, what is this? This is not what I have come to
Do not
expect.
besmirch Sunshine.
Sunshine has the best loop. It's such a fun sandbox. Yeah, so I don't know if like Thousand Year Door lets you interact with the environment by like peeling parts of it up or off or that kind of a thing. I think that might be Sticker
It lets
Star's,
you,
Stickers
like,
gimmick.
it lets
shtick.
you like turn sideways or
Makes
something.
you be flat. Yeah,
Yeah.
it can be like a line. Yeah.
I don't know.
I may have played that at
Mm.
like Caleb's house back in the day, but never like owned it and played it all the way through.
Yeah, I have never beaten it because my save file got corrupted at like the final zone. So,
Oh, that sucketh.
yeah.
Yeah. I think the shtick, because they've had me do it, I was just peeling up, before we started recording, I was just peeling a bunch of toads like off of the walls and like off the ground and stuff and uncrumpling them and stuff so they could
Yeah.
go, help fix the town that got all wrecked when Bowser showed up. So I think that's the shtick with Sticker Stars. You can like mess with the environment by like
Yeah.
It makes sense.
peeling off
yeah.
the
That's cool.
stickers. Yeah. It's fun.
Cool.
It's a fun
Yeah.
loop. If you ever want to borrow it, you are welcome.
It's another reason to bring you back on the show as you're playing games on like 3DS and stuff. And I
Yeah.
like not only did that console or that handheld like I just missed it completely, but like I'm not going to
Mhm.
go back to it realistically. So it's fun,
Yeah.
having you to bring up these older games because you still actively play your 3DS.
Yeah. The Switch was pretty great for me. It's like kind of the perfect marriage in terms of like just enough power to play some bigger games, but I've always been a fan of like the DS and Game Boy Advance. My little, not really a white whale, I just can't quite bring myself to spend the money on it, even though it's not that expensive, but I want to get a Game Boy Mini.
Mini or micro?
I think it's micro actually is the
Okay,
term.
yeah. I didn't know if there was another one that I didn't know about.
Like a
but
new
yeah,
one that you
I
didn't
know
know.
what
I
the
think
micro
it's micro.
is. Yeah, the like little square one, like rectangular. Yeah.
Because why would I want that? Just to have it. And so that's not enough. Like, that's not enough of a reason to
Yeah.
get it.
Right.
But also, I want it. It's small.
If you
Yeah.
could get one, what color would you get one in?
I'm not sure what colors they come in. The only ones I've really seen on eBay have been like the
Like
silver ones.
Silver, yeah. It's classic silver, yeah.
Yeah. The
Gonna say
classic retro
somebody's
silver.
preparing for drawing your name in your like family Christmas thing.
Right. Let me just
Right?
log that away. Maybe
I
I
should
can
put
find
that
like
on
an
my-
emulator that's shaped like one, and you can get more games than just.
Oh, I see ads for those on
Oh, yeah.
TikTok all the time of the
Those
little
look
like
cool.
not a Game Boy that
Yeah.
like has hundreds of games loaded on.
You can
it.
just get
Yeah.
like the Game Boy interface for your phone or whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I've got Game Boy Pocket and I think 2 Game Boy Colors that I
Wow.
just pick. Like they're like $10 on eBay because people mod them and stuff. So there's a lot that get sold for parts or aren't like super great. And then I have a truly bizarre collection of just random ass Game Boy games that, or like I'm not gonna play NBA, but I got it. It's no DuckTales, but I do
Yeah.
have 2 copies of that just in case. So.
Yeah, I have a Super Nintendo that has just sat in my closet for years
Mm-hmm.
with a few games, and then I have a DS Lite, I think, that we found like not too long ago that has also just kind of like
Mhm.
sat in my. Because I'm like, okay, I finally have some time to play video games. Am I gonna sit here and play this old DS game, or am I gonna play
Yeah.
the modern new games that I'm interested in? So yeah, I'm not that retro. I don't have that retro mindset, I guess, that some people do. There are some like older games that I'd like to go back to and check out, but
Yeah.
nowadays
Mhm.
with so many like remasters and stuff, it's like the Battle Network games, the Mega Man games, like there's
Mhm.
a remake version like on Switch and consoles
Yeah.
and stuff. I just play that version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which does make sense for a lot. Like I have like if an HD version of Twilight Princess was released, I would pick it up just because I'd be more likely
Just
to
go buy a
play
Wii U.
Mm,
Well,
no.
Well, she has
Mm.
2 Game Boys. Like this is
I do
she
have
could
2
buy
Game
a
Boys,
Wii U.
but also I have a GameCube and I have
Yeah, but
our
it's-
original version.
They did like an HD.
I know, and I played some of it when we borrowed Caleb's Wii U. Played quite a bit, but also like I want to say it's like the Wii version where everything's flipped versus the GameCube version. So that like throws me off a little bit. Yeah. And then again, it's just a whole nother console to pick up.
Yeah, no, they would just print money if they ported it to Switch, but for whatever reason.
And also it's crazy expensive to get that because I have looked.
The game or the Wii U?
The game on the Wii U.
Yeah.
Because
probably
people
one of the
be
few
like
games that people are like really wanting to play.
Yeah. So they're like, it would be cheaper to just wait for Nintendo to release and buy it at full price at $60 than to spend $200 on somebody's Wii U where they've bought it, the digital version, in the Nintendo store, and it's not actually supported because they're not going to give you their Nintendo login. They're just being assholes.
Yeah.
It really baffles me that they released a remaster of Skyward Sword where they had to rework the motion controls to like function on a controller because what if you want to play a handheld? They did that before just porting the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess Wii U games to Switch. Like, just all you have to do is just port them.
That's an easy $2 million right there. Come on.
Well, it's weird to me too because like Nintendo historically has been pretty good about backwards compatibility because like
they're like virtual console and stuff like that.
Well, and just like the Game Boy Advance could play
games on Wii.
Yeah.
You could just plug the disc in and it's just kind of like, oh, okay, here we go.
Go ahead.
Yeah, some business advisor came in and was like, you guys realize that if you just forced people to buy your old games in limited release windows, they would do it, right? And they're like, maniacal laugh.
Right.
I feel like they just don't have a department dedicated to like that whole, like the backlog or porting games up or anything like that. Like, this is a very generous read on the situation, but I feel like they're so forward thinking. They're like, why would anyone want to play that? We gave you Breath of the Wild.
Well, and it's one of those where they've released a bunch of stuff that was backward or like that was from previous things. And so they just very much don't cannibalize their own release dates. And so I kind of think the two Zelda remakes are done. They just don't.
They are done. Like, they just have to port them. They're just
I mean, I was gonna say, like, I'm pretty sure they're available.
They're ready for the Switch
too. Like, I think it's just they're not pressing the button. Like
we're not going to release that the same year we release the first game where you can play as Zelda. Like,
I was gonna say,
stand by itself.
I think Nintendo probably has a decently extensive backlog of games that are ready to just
there was the whole thing with
Switch.
Pikmin 3 or Pikmin 4. What's the newest one? Pikmin 4?
Pikmin 4.
Where like that game was ready for years.
Yeah.
Before they actually like decided to release it. So yeah, I think you're right where it's like they don't really care. Just because something is ready doesn't mean they're going to release it. Like they're going to wait until they feel like it.
They're going to put out a game when it's like, it's like, oh, well, we're only putting out one game a month or whatever it is. And it's like, well, we've got 40 games ready to go. So we'll eventually get through this in 2 years, 3 years. So,
and again, the generous read is like, we know our demographic is pretty largely like kids and young adults, and they only get so much money. And so we're not trying to flood our own market with that. Because they're also like, they're a studio and a console like in and of themselves. So they don't have to like
a publisher, you mean?
Yeah. So games end up on the Switch, but Nintendo's not. I don't know. I feel like Xbox, they are a publisher, but they don't. They're just different. Nintendo's just kind of a whole.
Yeah, Nintendo's its own thing. Beast. Yeah. Part of it is just like how they run their company. Part of it is, both them and PlayStation are Japanese companies. So you can't really I guess say that it's too much of like a cultural thing. But yeah, that Nintendo has always just kind of marched to the beat of their own drum, and it works for them. And when they try to like step into the ring with the other consoles and compete on just like, we want to have all the same games and like compete on the same like specs and stuff like they did with the GameCube, like they lose. So they go for their gimmicks and they lean into their particular brand of games, and that's when it works for them. So, and as soon as they release Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, I will purchase them immediately and play them. So,
which, I mean, that's kind of what, I mean, it saved the video game industry essentially, because there was so much like shovelware and crap being shipped early on in the like home console market when Nintendo came out, and they're like Nintendo seal of quality. This will run, you can play it, it will be good. It totally set them apart from everybody else for so long. I can't fault them for it, because I'd love for Nintendo to still be a thing in 50, 60, 70 years. So
yeah,
they kind of have that like home cooked meal comfort factor to them, where it's like sitting down and playing a good old Zelda, Mario, whatever your Nintendo game of choice is, even like Metroid, whatever. It's like, yes, I feel like I'm back home,
Yeah.
Your grandma's not going to take a swing at making homemade pizza. She's just not. But her tater tot casserole hits every time.
Granny's soup on Outset Island. Yeah, can't beat it. It's a reference for Aubrey because Dylan has no taste.
I've played that game. I just don't think you don't like it. I've seen Granny's soup though. That's not deep into the game.
Wrong. Well, Andrew, I'm torn between asking you about The Last Faith or Bluey the Videogame.
Okay, I could talk about either one, so
give us the quick and dirty on Bluey the Videogame, and then actually tell us about The Last Faith.
All right, Bluey the Videogame is not worth your time or money because it's like an hour long.
Oh my!
So it's it's not a full price game. It's like $40 or something. But literally,
a lot for an hour.
Yeah, literally, How Long to Beat has the completionist run at 3 hours.
Yeah.
So I played it for my other channel, for the Parents Guide to Gaming, and I played it. I was like, I'm just gonna play it for like 30 minutes, an hour, whatever, and capture some clips so that I have some gameplay for my video. And I'm pretty sure I did like 3/4 of the game.
Yeah.
So essentially it's like an episode of the show where Bluey and Bingo find out that their dad and his brother, their uncle, had like some hidden treasure that they hid back in the 80s. And so your job is to find the pieces of the map and then find the treasure. And so you like start out in the house, and then you go to like the park, and you get to play Keepy Uppy, and you get to play Floor is Lava and all that kind of stuff. And I reviewed it on my other channel. I didn't give it a super great review, mostly because of the cost to time ratio. I'm like, even as a child, like,
yeah, that's what
your
that's
option
what
is to replay the game over and over and over, because there's just not much there.
That's what I was going to ask, is I know like as children, we would play this, like we talked about that Wishbone game, where I'm sure that we just, or like that Tonka game, where we just played a game that if we played it now, probably does not have very much content, but we played it over and over and over and over again as children. And like, do you think that Bluey could be that for like a 5-year-old? Or is it?
Yeah,
not?
absolutely.
Okay.
Because you can play as any of the family members, so you can play as any of the 4 characters. You get to explore, like, if there's like 3 or 4 different locations from the show. You get to play like I said, the touchstone games from the show, Keepy Uppy, Floor is Lava, all that kind of stuff. And I will say that the game looks like an episode of the show for the most part. Like, it looks like a game, like it's not
like
quite
well animated
1-to-1, but they got all the voice actors doing their lines. So like there was some care put into it.
Yeah.
But it's like,
it's just very short.
Yeah. It feels like this should have been episode 1 of like a 5-episode game or something, like if they would have, if they would have taken this and then done like 3 or 4 more of them, then I'd be like, yeah, go for it. I think at launch too, it had a lot of technical issues, and there were a couple little hiccups I hit, but ultimately what I played, it was like, yeah, this is fine. And I could see a kid really getting into this, but like my daughter has not played it that much because I'm not buying it on the Switch, and that's where she plays most of her games.
Yeah.
She did. There was one day where gave her my phone and I like streamed it for her and hooked up a controller to the phone and she played it on the phone for a little while. And the screen was a little too small and stuff, but like she played it and had a decent time. And I thought it was just kind of a cool like experiment to try with like the cloud gaming and stuff. So I think like she would enjoy it and probably play it and probably play the same parts over and over because she does that in some of her other games. And she might be like, I'm going to play as Bingo now. But like as a parent, it's like I played it because it's on Game Pass. And so I was like, yeah, I'll try it. It's a good one to review on my parent channel. But the length of the game is really the main thing that holds it back. It's like, man, for $40 for like an hour of gameplay that's asking a lot.
Yeah. If it was even just $20, that would be worth picking up for the Switch for her and like letting her play. But
and if I ever catch it on a sale, I probably will pick it up just so like she can have it. Ideally, I'd like to get the physical cart, but like for that one, it's probably not as essential. But yeah. So if you're interested in hearing my thoughts, like kind of concisely streamlined down with a actual like star rating and stuff at the end, you can go check out my review on the Parents Guide to Gaming YouTube channel. But yeah, it's ultimately, if you have Game Pass, you get it for really, if you have Game Pass, you get it for really cheap. Sure, check it out. Your kid will probably like it if they like Bluey the show, but it's not a good value to cost, in my opinion.
No.
All right. And now The Last Faith. What's that about?
The Last Faith is essentially what if Blasphemous and Bloodborne had a baby.
How do you find all of these like Bloodborne, like just like Bloodborne? It's like Bloodborne. I'm like, I could ask about any game on your list. I'm like, yeah, with some elements from Bloodborne. It's like
like just Google The Last Faith real quick and look at screenshots. It's essentially it's like 2D pixel art Bloodborne. Like they 100%. So it plays like Blasphemous, which is like a 2D Metroidvania.
Okay, so it looks exactly like Bloodborne.
Yeah, but Blasphemous is like a 2D
side scrolling.
Yeah, pixel art Metroidvania game that's very like Gothic Catholic kind of inspired, very like brutal, gruesome, kind of has that imagery.
That looks cool, actually.
They essentially took that gameplay and they just put the Bloodborne aesthetic on it.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. I actually got it with my Father's Day Switch gift card that you got me, Aubrey. I went ahead and picked this game up because it was one that I had like in my wish list because it looks like Bloodborne and I had it in there since it released, but I was like, I don't want to pay full price for it necessarily. And so when I got the gift card and it maybe was on sale slightly too, I was like, yeah, let me just pull the trigger. And I played it super heavily for like one Sunday afternoon and just like really kind of got into it. And then I've played it a couple times since then. I think I'm about halfway through it, but it's good. It's if you like 2D pixel art, like it looks fantastic. If you like 2D,
it does look
like
really good.
Metroidvania style action games, like I think it holds up. It's one that I intend to go back to and finish, and I also am working on a script for it for our channel here, so I'll probably review it officially. But yeah, it's
nice.
It's one that it is unashamedly the combination of the two games that I mentioned. Like there are a lot of games where it's like, oh yeah, it has some, like when I talked about Flintlock, like it has some elements of God of War and some elements of Bloodborne and some elements of Arkham and whatever. But this is like, what if Blasphemous looked like Bloodborne? And that is pretty much this game. It's like Blasphemous with some of the like leveling mechanics and stuff from like a Souls game.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's a Metroidvania that looks like Bloodborne. It has a lot more exposition and like just kind of explaining the story and like what character, like, oh, this guy was doing this thing and it went wrong and that's why he's a horrible monster. Whereas Bloodborne is like, oh, I walked in on this horrible monster. I wonder what happened.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a little bit more in your face with like the exposition, but yeah, I've been pretty pleasantly surprised with it as a I don't really know what if the studio's done anything else, but also as like just a game that is unashamedly like copying two other games and like mashing them. Like it's pretty solid. It doesn't feel like a crappy version of that. Like it feels like they
thoughtfully made and well constructed.
They appreciated and understood the two sources that they were combining when they made their game.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I was just looking at screenshots and it looks really cool. And then I saw a thumbnail and somebody called it a Soulsvania.
Soulsvania. I mean, I guess, yeah, it makes sense. But yeah, I think if you know what Blasphemous is and you know what Bloodborne is, like that's the easiest way to describe it, is like it is literally just Blasphemous, but it looks like Bloodborne.
Yeah.
I saw the images and was like, I want to play Portrait of Ruin again.
Yeah, I've been tempted to like pick up some of the Castlevania collections and kind of go back to some of because we had a couple of the like DS ones that I enjoyed back in the day, but I also didn't understand Metroidvania, so it was like, I'm stuck, I'm done with this game. It was like,
yeah,
I've got a bunch of them from like free games with gold over the years, and I'm like, I feel like I should try these out because I hear great. I think I've even got like Symphony of the Night and stuff, which is I know routinely held up as one of the best, and I'm like, I should probably check that out at some point.
Like they feel the best to me on a handheld, but I also have like Symphony of the Night and at least one other of the 2D ones on Xbox from like Games with Gold or something. So I've definitely thought about going back and checking those out, especially now that I've played like some Hollow Knight, Ender Lilies, Metroid Dread. You know, I understand the genre a little bit better. It'd be cool to go back and like see some of the like the series that started it all alongside Metroid and be like, oh yeah, this is cool.
I definitely still have a copy of Portrait of Ruin for the DS, and I'm like 90% sure I have a copy of Order of Ecclesia.
Probably. I feel like you do. If not, maybe I have it when I got that DS, because I feel like I've seen it recently.
Yeah, I was pretty quick to like. I think Dad bought Portrait of Ruin.
Yeah,
and it was like, oh, you're not playing it. I'll hold on to it for you. Like I'll keep it. And like a lot of Andrew's DS games when he got his Xbox and stopped playing them, was like, yes, I will hold on to them for you. Don't take them to GameStop. Like.
Yep.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind going back and playing some of the like the Wind Waker sequels on DS, because I think I tried one of them and didn't end up finishing it, but
because it can be like
Spirit Tracks and whatever the other one was.
It can be actually crazy sometimes. Like you feel a little bit like you're taking crazy pills. I went to a secondhand bookstore in Nashville when I was there last and was looking at like their selection, because they had a bunch, obviously, like books, but then they had a bunch of other media, and I was looking at the video games and stuff, and I was like, oh, I wonder if they have like the original Animal Crossing. That would be like a cool thing to pick up or whatever. And I found it, and it was like $93 for Animal Crossing on the GameCube, and like Ocarina of Time on the GameCube was like $107. I'm like,
crazy.
What are we doing?
And you can play that on the Switch with the like subscription thing now, the like N64 version.
And like obviously they're desirable, so there's going to be some amount of like price hacking. Somebody's going to do it, but it's just so anytime I like saw you come back with the GameStop receipt and you're like, yeah, I traded this game in, I only got like 97 cents for it, and I'm just like,
yeah.
Would it only get us $5 on eBay 10 years later? Yes, probably. But
right.
Then we'd have it. Very glad that so far none of our old like PC ROM games that I've picked up copies of have been like outrageously expensive. I haven't found Wishbone's Odyssey yet, but got like 2 copies of Hades Challenge for like $10 each, so that was nice.
Yeah, I was going to say having a computer that still runs CD-ROMs is like
yeah. It's quite an accomplishment.
Nama's old iMac computer. Lime green. jelly case kind of a thing. Heavy as hell. That thing's so heavy.
Yep.
They don't make them like that anymore.
No. It's all contained in the monitor.
Yep.
Which I think
they didn't really ever make them like that. That was an Apple thing.
Yes.
Which I'm sure my much more technologically informed husband could also just find a way for me to play those games on my computer now.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
he may sail the pirate bay a little bit, but I'm sure they're out there.
Cool. Well, that will probably do it for this edition of the Neighborhood Watch. Let's move into housekeeping. Is there anything? I guess let me ask you this: what's new on YouTube, Dylan? What's going on over there?
So on YouTube, we've got a few new things. We've got
the LC preview would have just come out last week.
We've got a preview of LC, which is a game that Andrew has played. We got contacted by a publisher,
Platonic,
and so they were like,
So
"Hey,
cool.
we think this game could be cool," and so check that out, because this is the first time we've gotten contacted by a publisher about doing anything like this. So it's just, I think it's basically kind of a preview review of like the demo that I believe is available for you to play.
It's
right
on
now.
Steam, yeah.
And then the game itself, I think, should be coming soonish.
Stay tuned for more information.
Yeah, be watching our YouTube channel. There may be more coming. Other than that, we've got Steel Rising, which recently came out. That's up there as well. So check that video out if you're interested in, especially if you're like a Souls-like gamer that is enjoying those types of games, because that is in Andrew's series about Souls-like games. So
yeah, it's another game that I played. I started Flintlock. I don't know why I didn't say this. I started Flintlock, wasn't feeling it, played all of Steel Rising, did a video review on it, and then went back to Flintlock.
Yes. So those are like a couple of the more recent videos that we've had kind of go live. We've got some more coming up that I think we're all excited about. So keep an eye on our YouTube channel. If you're watching this podcast or listening to this podcast on YouTube, giving us a like, subscribing to it is always appreciated. Helps throw us into the algorithm a bit more, get us out there in front of more eyes, helps us grow our followers so that we can get monetized and all that kind of stuff. That would be super awesome. Leaving us some comments about, what you've been playing, would be awesome if you can do that. I don't know if you can leave comments in Spotify. I think you can now. If you're on Spotify, maybe leave us a comment there about, it may not be for a show as small as ours.
But I gotta figure out how to actually see those, if that's a thing.
Yeah. But if you're, if whatever you're listening to it on allows you to comment, comments go a long way into helping a podcast or a channel grow, because it is probably one of the things that throws it into the algorithm the most, beyond just watching or listening to the whole thing and subscribing, liking it. So yeah, if you're doing that on YouTube, if you're listening to this on YouTube, if you've made it an hour and a half into a video, be appreciated if you could do that. And if you want smaller, more bite-sized content, that is where it lives, on YouTube.
Absolutely.
And sometimes TikTok.
And yes, sometimes TikTok. We're working on ways to optimize our workflow to get back on posting some short form content, but it's so much, this grind. It's so much, but we are working on trying to get back on some of the short form content. As far as the podcast, like Dylan said, leaving a rating or review on your podcast app of choice helps a ton. And I recently went and looked at our show on Spotify, and we are sitting at 4.8 stars with 22 ratings, which is probably, I think that's about double roughly of what we have on Apple as far as ratings. So I appreciate all of you Spotify listeners that have given us a star rating on Spotify. That really helps us out a lot. That gets us pushed into more of those feeds and things that helps our show get discovered organically in ways that we can't control.
Yep.
As far as content, we recently did like a full trivia game night episode. That was our last episode. So if you didn't listen to that one, if the clickbait title didn't get you, definitely go check that one out, because we had a ton of fun making that one, and we discovered Aubrey has no idea what an RPG is.
Nobody does.
Yeah, nobody does.
Nobody knows.
And then as far as the future of the podcast, we have some really fun topics lined up for the next few months, and also some cool ideas for like structuring content. We have another like month-long content idea plan that we are working on right now. So some fun things in the works that I'm very excited about, that'll be a lot of fun for us, but hopefully fun for you to listen to as well, and that are a lot more interesting and probably just straight up possible, because now we have Aubrey on the show. So that is exciting. Aubrey, do you have anything that you want to plug?
Not at present.
Cool. Perfect.
I'll let you know.
The last thing would be, if you want to come hang out with us, chat with us, talk to us about the games you've been playing, or movies you've been watching, or music you've been listening to, or whatever, join our Discord. That is where kind of the heart of the community is. We are on TikTok and X and Instagram and, all those places, but
we have accounts there.
Yes,
at the very least.
We do have accounts, and I use them more to try to like support and like other creators in our space, and like, kind of be active and support our fellow creators. But we are, like I said, looking into trying to get back on TikTok a little bit more, because it's super popular. So maybe that will also help us with our reach. But it's tough. It's tough out there for a little indie podcast. But we are on all those places where you can follow us. But the main point I was trying to get at is that Discord is where you can actually come and have a conversation with us and members in our community, and talk about the games you're playing and stuff like that. So we would love to have you. The link is in the podcast description. With all of that being said, thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Neighborhood Watch. We greatly appreciate it, and we will catch you on the next one.